Let's take a look at the Fantasy Tools defense ratings page. First of all, always make sure that you're looking at the most current ratings. Make sure that the date that you see on the page matches the current week that you're looking at. So the purpose of defensive ratings is to give you a more accurate view of who are really good matchups for each player category. So for example, if you're interested in learning who the easiest matchup is for a quarterback, you'll go in here and search under the versus quarterback rank in ascending order. So the teams that are on the top of the list are the easiest matchups for your fantasy quarterbacks, and the teams that are on the bottom of the list are the most difficult. So of course you want to avoid the ones from the 22 down to 32 range when possible, and you want to target matchups for the defenses that are listed here in the 1 through 10 range. So what this tells us is that if your quarterback is going up against New Orleans, that is the number one matchup that you can have. If your quarterback is going up against Carolina, that is the worst matchup that you can have, or the 32nd easiest. This might seem a lot like fantasy points against, but it is not fantasy points against. It was really the reason that we came up with this algorithm in the first place, because fantasy points against are broken. It's a failed metric. It's been proven over and over again. Even though they're a standard industry-wide, they really aren't giving you any accurate and useful information. So let all the other fools in your league use fantasy points against, and you can instead use the FantasyoMatic defense ratings. The reason that there's a difference is because the FantasyoMatic defense ratings are taking into account the strength of the, in this case, quarterbacks who've already faced these defenses. Give up a lot of fantasy points, it's who they gave up the fantasy points to. Or there might be a team who has not given up a lot of fantasy points, but they may not have been facing very good quarterbacks, let's say. So the idea here is to go to the defense ratings page if you really want to evaluate really how difficult or how easy the matchups are that your players are going to face. Now don't worry, if you really want to make decisions based on a player, all you have to do is go look at the player rating and their week rating. The week rating, amongst other things, takes into account some of the defense ratings or the strength of the matchup. But if you're purely just looking at matchups, you can look at the data that you see here on screen, and you can sort in ascending order to see the easiest matchups on the top for each position category, or descending order to see the most difficult matchups. The rating itself is just the numeric value that represents the ranking, so they correlate. So if you just focus on interacting with the rankings, either highest to lowest or lowest to highest, this will tell the story about really truly what are the easiest or most difficult matchups